Good morning, folks. Today is April the 30th, 2024. It is about 7:35, 34, about 7:34 exactly this morning on a Tuesday morning. I'm in a rush. I didn't even take the time to set this thing up in the other computer for that because you might hear some beeping out there. There's a massive crane being set up to set the trusses for the house across the street. And they are loud. And once they get that thing rolling, at least they used to be. We'll see how it does. So I'm going to try to get this done early. Let's see. First of all, yesterday's knee thing. I got my second injection. I think I've decided to go ahead and do it. I've got to wait 3 months after the last injection, which will be next week. It looks... I've got more information on it. I've got more information on the statistics of it. I'll continue to do some research on it. And if this third injection miraculously changes the course of these last two injections, which are doing something but not much, I'm going to go ahead and get it done. In the end, it comes down to a quality of life choice. Are the knees interfering with what I want to do? And the answer to that question is yes. And so I'm not 90, I'm not 85, I'm not fucking 80. It's something worth doing. So it's the last time I'll talk about it until this happens, of course, and then I'll have to let you know what's going on with that. But for right now, that's my decision. That's what I'm going to do. And we'll just let it go at that. What's going on with Gaza? I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the bullshit is continuing. The bullshit is continuing. Anthony Blinken came out and said Israel's deal, Israel's offer to the Palestinians, to Hamas, to Gaza, is extraordinarily fair and good for Gaza. Here's Israel's deal. Here's Israel's offer. 40 days, you give up 30 of the 130 hostages that's left. Israel might release a couple thousand of the Palestinian civilians they've taken and held in their black hole of a prison system for the last couple of years. They might not. The IDF remains in Gaza. The IDF controls the security of Gaza, like they wanted to do from the start. And, of course, the Biden administration continues to build the Nakba Pier, and the IDF continues to build the fucking Nakba Highway, which bisects fucking Gaza. At least the top third, cuts off the top third, and will be used to put fucking Palestinians on the highway on a bus and send them down to the Nakba Pier, where they are expelled into the migrant workforce on behalf of big business all across the westernized world. And what does Hamas get out of that? They're going to be arrested, and Hamas has to be broken up as a political party. And, of course, they're going to bring in whatever political party they want to do business for them, for the Israelis. That's the deal. And according to Anthony Blinken, that's an extraordinarily beneficial deal for Gaza. Now, what's the threat? The threat is, and Blinken said it, accepting this deal is the only thing that will stop Israel's bloody, ruthless, murderous rampage through Rafah, killing more women and children, killing more innocent civilians, committing more genocide, in order to depopulate Palestine so they can steal it for themselves. That's the extraordinarily good deal for the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, according to Anthony Blinken. Obviously, they're not going to accept that deal. According to the ICC, they're about to file arrest warrants for various leaders, head of the IDF, head of Mossad, and of course Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party and others, maybe the Ben Giver and all these people, the ultra-Zionists who are in the process, who are steadily working to commit genocide Gaza. Of course, that coming out, what happens? AIPAC twists some arms in fucking D.C., and we have, of course, a new bill being, crafted up, probably by folks from AIPAC, on behalf of our Congress critters, condemning the ICC, International Criminal Court, and saying that they're going to impose sanctions on ICC members if they don't withdraw this process of filing obvious criminal charges against people who are responsible for the obvious fucking genocide in Gaza. This is the shining city on the hill. This is how we operate. Now, in this country, we have a whole ton of people running around still to this very moment trying to justify 14,000 dead fucking children because of what happened on October the 7th. At best, reporting, and this is done by mainstream media in fucking Israel, like Times of Israel, like Haaretz, like fucking Jerusalem Post. I think Times of Israel has the best reporting on this. 765 civilians. Remember when they said it was 1,800? 765 civilians killed on October the 7th, with one interesting caveat. Because of who's doing the investigation, we have no idea how many of those people were actually killed by IDF soldiers. Because we know that drones killed many of them with Hellfire rockets, the ones who were killed on the streets, those burned cars, for instance, that they buried in Jewish cemeteries so they can never be fucking dug up. Of course, the tanks firing. We have IDF people admitting these things happened. We have tanks firing into the fucking kibbutzes, the very same kibbutzes where they said the 40 beheaded babies were, the very same kibbutzes where they brought in Americans and people from outside the country to say, look how terrible Hamas is. Look what they did to this building and this kibbutz. The damage to the building and the kibbutz was done by Israeli tank fire. They were literally looking at what they did, saying, this is what Hamas did, the terrorists in Hamas. So we have, in this country, lots of people. Many of them on the Trump side of things, fighting as hard as they can to push back on the thought of 14,000 fucking dead children for the 760 people who were killed on October the 7th. We don't know how many were killed by the IDF. In all likelihood, there's a good number. And one of the reasons that they don't want to end this conflict is because they know real investigations will commence. People will be able to start talking to commanders in the field. They'll start talking to people who were driving the tanks. They'll start talking to people who were flying the drones. And they might find out exactly how big that number is. 1,200 people total. 760 supposedly were civilians. But that also doesn't include the civilians who weren't IDF or police, but who were security, who were settlers, who were, in fact, armed and shooting at fucking the Hamas and the Palestinian resistance fighters. So that's the situation. However, that situation is about to change. I told you the other day, told you yesterday, we talked about what was going on with CBS and the niece of one of the hostages who happens to be an Israeli-American dual citizen, saying they understand. Everybody understands. This is being dragged out like this because Bibi Netanyahu wants to remain in office. This is it's his political fucking ambition that's doing this. And they're tired of it. And that's a big feeling. That's a very popular feeling in Israel. Well, she was able to say that on CBS and point that out, and CBS didn't edit that shit out. And they didn't challenge it. Turns out, Time magazine, not to be outdone, released an interview with fucking Donald Trump in which Donald Trump said what happened on October the 7th was a deficiency in the protection that the Israeli government and the IDF were supposed to provide the people of Israel. They failed, including Benjamin Netanyahu, and he stated, quote, there are other people in Israel who can do the job better, end quote. Talking about it's time to get rid of Bibi Netanyahu. Now that's from Donald Trump himself. All of a sudden you're going to see a shift in the fucking Trumpites. Sorry, but that's what I called Obama-ites, you're Trumpites. Or Bidenites or fucking Kennedyites, whoever the fuck, I don't care. I call them all the same thing because I'm not creative. Don't get mad at me. Trump supporters are going to suddenly shift. Now their Messiah has made it okay for them to say what is obvious. What has been obvious for 6 fucking months. This whole thing, this entire fucking process has been brought to you by people who are trying to stay in power and appease the fucking Zionists. That's one thing the alt-right. And that's where one of the places I agree with the alt-right. The alt-right call out what's happening and our Congress critters on the left and the right, the Rhino Republicans and the fucking DLC left, they call them out rightly for being unduly influenced by Zionist influences in the United States. When's the last time you heard, aside from me, when's the last time you heard somebody on the fucking alt-left talk about the USS Liberty event? When's the last time? Has it ever? Have you ever heard it? I haven't. Maybe Max Blumenthal, but that's because Max Blumenthal on fucking Palestine and Israel situation. That's how he garners his credibility. That's how he gets his street cred. Then he uses it in nefarious means, but that's how he gets it. He might be the only one. Maybe Chris Hedges. That's it. Certainly fucking back in the day, Noam Chomsky. I don't know if you'd talk about it today, but that's certainly back. But that's about it. And of course me. Alt-right, all over that shit. All over exposing the Zionists until this. And now they're like, shh. Donald Trump has now unshackled them. Because he's come out himself on Time Magazine interview. I'll show you links to all of this stuff down below. He's come out himself on Time Magazine's interview and said, this is their fault. This is fucking the leadership's fault in Israel. And there's people in fucking Israel. They're good people in Israel. I don't know if he's mentioned Benny Gantz or who he's talking about. But he says they're good people who can do the fucking job better. It's time for him to go. It's time for Bibi to go. We know what happens when Bibi goes. When Bibi goes, someone else is going to come in and they're going to have serious discussions about what's happening in Gaza. And they're going to be able to have serious negotiations. There's no, in the Israeli plan, of course, there's no fucking pathway to recognition of a Palestinian state. There is apartheid state and with Bantustans in West Bank, and then apartheid state with Bantustans in Gaza, and of course, Israeli and American developers, Donald Trump's fucking son-in-law wanting to be one of them, developing fucking, gambling casinos and resort hotels on the coastline. Because that's prime fucking real estate. That's prime money. And it's just fucking sitting there. And because of what's happening with Israel and the blockades, nobody's doing anything with it. But that's, that's money. Not enough. When you have that, if you have the masters of the universe, and that's what fucking Bibi Netanyahu's offering up, 12 miles of beachfront property and some next to fucking slave labor and Palestinians and the new fucking Bantustans are going to put in fucking Gaza. When you have him offering that up, and you have MBS in Saudi Arabia offering up, Project 2030 and trillions of dollars a year in privatizations and privatization of Aramco, and with all their investments and spreading out their investments as they wanted to do across the westernized world, there's no question. Bibi's got nothing to sell. Bibi's widget is a piece of shit. Bibi's mousetrap is ancient. He's got nothing to sell. Which is, of course, you want to understand why Trump is making this turn. Everyone knows this. I've talked about this ad nauseum, and of course, Trump is a fucking billionaire. Trump services billionaires. He serves the interest of billionaires at warp speed. Wink, wink, wink. He did that fucking big tax fucking bill, that new tax law. He told everybody it's going to trickle down all over my blue collar fans, my blue collar fucking supporters. Did it? No. But it made other billionaires lots of fucking money, and corporations lots of money. And of course, Biden's going to keep it in place. All of the links to the stuff I'm talking about right here on my website. If you just go down the link down there below, you can find it. Trump hits Netanyahu on October 7th, says other Israeli leaders could do a good job. Bibi has rightfully been criticized for what took place on October 7th, Trump says, speaking to Time on April 12th at his Mar-a-Lago place. But he also says that there are some very good people who could take his job. Absolutely right. This is an interesting one. Remember there was a debate about maybe a week and a half ago between Cenk Uygur and there were three people on a panel. It was Piers Morgan, and this one woman was saying, all these people in Iran, they hope that Israel bombs fucking our government buildings and regime changes our buildings. To do what? To bring in Reza. Reza, who is, of course, the grandson or son, I think it might even be son, of the former Shah of Iran, the one who was overthrown in 1979, the one who ran the Savak. Well, we ran the Savak. We created Savak, which is their death squad. Just a brutal fucking neoliberal dictatorship based on making the Shah of Iran's family lots of money, a couple of business friends of his lots of money, and then business people outside the country lots and lots of money, including people like George Soros. According to this woman, that's who they want to bring back in Iran. The vast majority, according to her, want Israel to blow up their schools, their government buildings, their fucking capital, and regime change the country so that, this son or grandson of a fucking brutal, historically brutal dictator in Iran can be put back in power. Well, just to show you how out of touch that is, and of course, Cenk was laughing at this dumb person. This is him right here. And yes, that is his flag, his family's crest on the fucking Iranian flag. That's the flag of the Shah of Iran back when the Shah of Iran was in charge as a brutal dictator supported by the United States, right next to the Israeli flag. They are 100% in support of Zionist genocide being conducted in Gaza, in Palestine. That tells you, you think the vast majority of Iranians back that motherfucker? Try again. Here's U.S. Congress threatens ICC with retaliation over arrest warrants for Israeli officials. And this will give you all the names of them. And of course, Michael McCall is one of them, and there are many others. They mentioned in this article. They can't abide by arrest warrants being filed, so they're doing everything they can. They're just appeasing fucking AIPAC. They're just appeasing AIPAC for the money. That's what they're doing, because they're sluts, because they're whores. because that's what our shining city on the hill has. It's what are the ones from the Bible? What are the ones from the Bible where they were turned to pillars of salt and they turned around and looked back at them? Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what we've become. We've become literally Sodom and Gomorrah. How dare you fucking call out a leader who is clearly committing genocide, and because of his own personal ambitions and the ambitions of the Zionists, has killed over 14,000 innocent children who had no means by which to defend themselves. How dare you say that's a fucking crime? If you don't withdraw that, we'll get you. We're going to get you. We're going to take your money. We're going to take your houses. We're going to make sure your kids don't ever get jobs. We're going to make it. That's thug world. That's Sodom and Gomorrah thug world. That's where we live. That's where we live. Proud to be an American. Because at least we know we're free. Free to do what? The fuck are you free to? Smoke weed? Manufactured now by a mega corporation, which 30% of it's owned by BlackRock. Congratulations. Good for you. That's what our Congress people do. Now, it'll get passed. It'll be meaningless. It'll be meaningless. Listen, I guarantee you, if they're doing that in public, in private, they're telling them, you never know what's going to happen. If we don't help you out, there could be an ISIS-K bombing in your fucking building. We don't know. Could happen. That's what we do. We are a fucking thug state, run by criminals, run by spineless cowards, sycophants, whores, who understand, who can, lick their finger and put it up in the air and see which way the wind is blowing, and that's which way they're going. It don't fucking matter. It don't fucking matter. They would sell their fucking mothers for a campaign finance donation. They would literally pimp their fucking mothers out on the fucking streets. They are despicable human beings. And luckily, because I know a lot of folks who watch my stuff happen to support Donald Trump, and that's good. I don't care. It's great. I don't support Biden. I don't support Obama. I don't support Trump. I don't support Gore. I don't support Pelosi. I don't support Clinton. I don't support the Bushes. I don't support Cheney. It's all fucking bullshit to me. And it's all the same level bullshit to me. It just is. But that's cool. If that's who you support, then that's who you support. I am happy that Donald Trump has come out and said something reasonable about Bibi Netanyahu. Because you mark my words, when Bibi is gone, this whole thing ends. And somebody comes in, you're going to get a bunch of people like cockroaches when the lights are turned on, from the Likud party to the IDF leadership, to Mossad leadership, to Ben Giver. Pew! They're going to scatter because they don't want any accountability. You're going to see, if you live in Israel, if you look up in the skies one day and you just happen to see like 50 fucking private jets all headed to Miami at the same fucking time, like they're getting ready to go bomb Miami or some shit, or some kind of blitzkrieg in Miami, that's when you'll know this is over. That's when you'll know, because that's what they're going to fucking do. And we will welcome them. We will welcome them. We will defend them. Because we are a fucking thug state. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're Tom Cotton, if you're Nancy Pelosi, if you're Joe Biden, it doesn't matter. If you're fucking RFK Jr. RFK Jr. The guy's coming out now with his 10 things and what I believe. He also believes that Israel is glorious. Israel does no fucking harm. Israel's never killed a fucking child in their fucking lives. As he sucks up to the fucking Zionists and AIPAC. It doesn't matter. We are a thug state run by some of the world's most corrupt, self-centered, greedy politicians ever. With the exception of people like Mubarak and, of course, the Shah of Iran, if you want to be, truthful, factual about it. Anyway, I can see they've gotten the outriggers out for the cranes, and they're about to crank that thing up and start moving that thing around. So it's going to be loud. So that's going to be the end of my video. Like I said, this is the last time I'm going to mention my knees until about 3 months from now, when I'm going to go in for replacement. Barring a miracle, that's probably what's going to happen. That's it. No Gabby today. No Gabby today. Well, then I guess I'll have to exploit this one. This is Cricket. She doesn't make much noise. She doesn't make any noise. Hi, Cricket. Yes, I'm exploiting you. Anyway, thank you very much. We had more time than I thought we were going to have. That's good. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.